October 15th, 1941. Western approaches to Moscow. Dawn leaks into the pine forest as a thin gray bruise, barely lifting the night from the snow. Frost crackles under boots. The air smells of oil, wet wool, and burned cordite from yesterday's artillery. You can hear the city even from here. Moscow breathing under siege, distant engines coughing, the low thud of guns echoing like a heartbeat beneath the earth. A column of German infantry advances along a frozen logging road. Feldgrau coats blend into the trees. Helmets gleam dully with rime. An Oberleutnant at the head of the column lifts his field glasses and scans the tree line. He has been briefed. Everyone has, but he does not believe it. Snipers, they said. Partisans with rifles. Peasants with myths. He lowers the glasses and gestures forward. Keep moving. The men comply. They have crossed half of Europe in 4 months. Poland, France, the endless plains beyond Minsk and Smolensk. Speed and shock have been their armor. The Red Army, they were told, collapses when struck hard enough. Snipers are a nuisance, not a threat. One bullet, one man, easily answered by a platoon's fire. Somewhere in the trees, a Mosin Nagant rests against a gloved shoulder. The rifle's wooden stock is worn smooth where a cheek has pressed against it for hours. The bolt is clean. The scope lens is wiped, not breathed on, no fog, no glint. The man behind it does not move. He has been here since before dark, counting breaths, measuring wind by the way frost drifts off pine needles. He waits. The German column reaches a shallow cut in the road, a place where the snow thins and the earth shows through. The Oberleutnant steps into it, turning to check his rear. He opens his mouth to speak. The shot snaps through the forest like a breaking branch. The Oberleutnant drops straight down. There is no shout, no warning, just the sudden absence of a man where a man stood. For a heartbeat, the column freezes. Then training kicks in. Men scatter to the sides of the road, rifles up, muzzles searching. A machine gun team drops to a knee, the assistant gunner already feeding the belt. Someone shouts sharpshooters, sniper, and the word carries more surprise than fear. Another shot. A corporal spins and falls backward into the snow, hands clawing at nothing. The machine gun opens up, hammering the tree line with a long, angry burst. Bark explodes from trunks. Snow showers down. Silence answers. The Germans fire again, shorter bursts this time, disciplined, methodical. Grenades arc into the woods and thump dully. The Oberfeldwebel takes command, barking orders, sending a squad to sweep left, another right. The men move carefully now, crouched, weapons ready. They find nothing. No body. No blood trail. Only footprints, one set, already dusted over by falling snow. By midday, the column moves again. Slower. Edgier. Helmets tipped back as men peer into shadows. Officers mutter into field phones about isolated incidents. The losses are written off as bad luck, a single shooter who will not dare linger. They are wrong. The next kill comes an hour later. A radio man kneeling to adjust his antenna. A single round through the neck. The radio falls into the snow, hissing softly. Panic flickers, is smothered. Orders are given. Fire is returned. Again, nothing. By afternoon, the cold deepens. Fingers ache inside gloves. Breath hangs in clouds. The forest feels closer now, branches leaning in, every dark not a watching eye. Men begin to flinch at sounds that are not shots. The creak of leather, the crack of ice. German officers gather around a map spread over a crate. They argue in low voices. One insists the snipers are exaggerations, that advancing will solve the problem. Another suggests artillery preparation. A third mentions reports from other units. Men hit while lighting cigarettes, sentries taken at night, but he is waved off. Stories, someone says. Russian fear tactics. As if to answer, a shot rings out. The lieutenant speaking jerks and collapses, the map fluttering into the snow. This time, the reaction is not measured. Machine guns rake the forest in wild arcs. Mortars thump, sending shells screaming overhead. Trees splinter. Smoke drifts between the trunks, sharp and choking. Still no return fire. As darkness approaches, the Germans dig in. Shallow foxholes hacked into frozen ground. Barbed wire strung hastily. Sentries posted in pairs, eyes burning, fingers numb on triggers. Somewhere out there, unseen, rifles are being cleaned. Positions are being changed. Shots are being counted. The officers, huddled over ration tins and maps, begin to understand that Moscow is not just defended by armies. It is defended by men who wait. Men who let you walk into their sights and do not hurry. Men who have learned that one bullet, placed right, can stop a column cold. October 16th, 1941. Same forest. Before dawn, the night never truly settles. It pulses, wind through branches, distant engines, the muted crack of ice. German sentries stamp their feet to keep blood moving. Frost creeps into foxholes and stiffens fingers around triggers. Orders have gone out. No fires, no smoking, no unnecessary movement. Helmets are pulled low. Rifles are kept shouldered even while crouching. A flare arcs upward from the German line, hissing as it climbs. For a few seconds the forest is washed in hard white light. Trees etched in silver, shadows pinned to the ground. Nothing moves. The flare burns out and darkness pours back in. A second later, a sentry slumps forward, his partner turning just in time to see him fall. The shot came from somewhere behind the German line. That is when the officers realize the mistake. They have been watching the forest ahead. The snipers have already slipped around them. The response is immediate and brutal. Whistles cut the air. Squads fan out, sweeping rear positions, bayonets fixed, nerves frayed. A half-track engine roars to life, its headlights stabbing through the trees. The beams catch nothing but drifting snow and smoke from mortar rounds fired blind. Another shot. A machine gunner, kneeling to feed a belt, drops sideways. The gun shatters once, then goes silent. By dawn, the Germans count 7 dead and an unknown number wounded. No bodies recovered. No confirmed kills. The Oberfeldwebel files his report with clenched teeth, careful language masking a growing dread. He notes that the enemy sniper shows discipline, patience, and mobility. He does not write what he is thinking, that this is no lone hunter. Across the forest, in a shallow dugout reinforced with logs and snow, a Red Army political officer listens as men report in. They are young and old, peasants and workers, hunters and former students. Each carries a Mosin Nagant, its bolt worked smooth by thousands of cycles. Some have scopes, PU optics scavenged or issued. Others rely on iron sights and instinct. They speak quietly. They share ranges, wind estimates, the routes the Germans favor. One man mentions how the enemy officers wear better boots, move differently, stand taller. Another describes how machine gun teams cluster around certain clearings. Notes are made. Positions are adjusted. This is not chaos. It is method. By mid-morning, German artillery pounds the forest in a rolling barrage. Shells tear into the snowpack, hurling dirt and wood skyward. The ground shudders. For an hour, the bombardment continues. Officers convinced that weight of fire will crush whatever hides among the trees. When the guns lift, infantry advances again. They take 10 steps before the shooting starts. This time it is coordinated. 2 shots in quick succession. One man drops, then another, 20 meters apart. A third shot follows, aimed not at flesh, but at the radio antenna jutting above a backpack. The antenna snaps, metal whipping away. The Germans return fire, but the shots come from different angles now. Front, left, rear. The forest seems to breathe bullets. An Unteroffizier tries to rally his men, waving them forward. A round punches through his forearm, spinning him around. He screams and collapses. The men hesitate, then fall back into cover, firing wildly. The snipers shift again. They always do. After every shot, a crawl, a slide, a careful roll into a new depression already prepared. Snow is brushed back into place. Branches are resettled. The forest swallows them. German officers argue again, voices sharper now. One demands more artillery. Another wants tanks brought up to crush the woods flat. A third, pale and sweating despite the cold, suggests pulling back to regroup. He is overruled. By afternoon, casualties mount. Medics work frantically, fingers slick with blood that steams in the cold. Stretchers sink into snow. Wounded men glance constantly over their shoulders, flinching at every crack and echo. Word spreads along the line. Not officially, not in reports, but in whispers. Ivan's snipers. Ghosts. Hunters. Men begin to alter their behavior without orders. Helmets are dulled with mud. Officers stoop. Cigarettes go unlit. Laughter dies. That night, German patrols find something new. Carefully prepared firing positions. Shallow scrapes with packed snow. Firing lanes trimmed just enough to see without revealing. They are empty now, abandoned hours earlier. Nearby, spent cartridge cases are gone, carried away to deny evidence. This is when the first dismissals begin. At higher headquarters, miles from the forest, officers read the reports and frown. Snipers are mentioned too often now. Losses attributed to them are too high. But the doctrine does not change. Snipers are still considered a secondary threat. The push toward Moscow must continue. Speed remains the answer. In the forest, the men with rifles listen to the distant rumble of engines and smile thinly. Speed, they know, only brings the enemy faster into the sights. October 18, 1941. Army Group Center Headquarters, west of Moscow. The room is warm. That is the first thing you notice. A coal stove crackles in the corner, boots steam gently near its iron belly, and maps cover the walls in neat, confident layers of red and blue grease pencil. Outside, the wind claws at the wooden building, but inside there is order, light, and certainty. A major clears his throat and begins to read. Continued harassment by enemy snipers. Estimated losses over the last 72 hours. A general raises a hand. The reading stops. Enough, he says, irritated. Every delay now is blamed on snipers, mud, or ghosts in the trees. We did not defeat France by fearing men with hunting rifles. A few officers nod. One smiles thinly. Another report is pushed aside. Another unit's losses are reclassified as combat attrition. Requests for specialized counter-sniper detachments are denied. Ammunition is allocated to artillery, not optics. The assumption remains unchallenged. Once Moscow falls, all of this will end. Out in the forest, the consequences are immediate. German units are ordered to press forward again, this time without pause. Officers relay commands they no longer believe in. Columns advance along predictable routes, roads, rail lines, clearings, because speed demands it. The snipers are waiting. Just after noon, a company crosses a frozen stream. The ice creaks under boots and gear. Men hurry, urged on by shouted orders. Halfway across, the lead officer raises his arm to signal, and his head snaps back violently. He drops, arms flung wide, sliding across the ice like a discarded doll. 2 more shots follow. A sergeant falls, then a corporal. Panic ripples through the column as men dive for cover on slick ice, weapons skidding from their hands. The snipers do not fire again. They don't need to. The ice cracks under the sudden movement. A man plunges through, screaming as black water closes over him. Another slips, smashing his rifle. The formation collapses into chaos. Orders are lost in shouting and gunfire aimed at shadows. By the time the Germans scramble back to solid ground, 5 men are dead. None of them died fighting. That night, the temperature drops further. Metal burns skin. Breath freezes in scarves. German sentries crouch deeper into their foxholes, shoulders hunched, eyes raw with exhaustion. Every shift of snow sounds like a footstep. Every distant crack could be a rifle or a tree splitting in the cold. Shots come sporadically. Never enough to draw a clear response. One here, one there. Always precise. Always fatal. An artillery lieutenant steps out of his dugout to relieve himself, believing himself safe behind the line. He never finishes. A round punches through his chest from somewhere unseen. His body is found minutes later, already stiffening. Fear sets in, quiet and corrosive. Men begin to hesitate before moving. Officers notice it and react harshly. Threats are issued. Discipline is enforced. But discipline cannot silence the instinct screaming at the back of every man's mind. You are being watched. Meanwhile, the snipers adapt again. They begin targeting specialists. Radio men, medics, engineers, men carrying wire cutters or rangefinders. Each loss slows the German machine just a little more. A bridge repair delayed. A message that never arrives. A wounded man who bleeds out because the medic never made it. The Germans respond with sweeps and reprisals. Forest sections are burned. Villages nearby are searched, men dragged out and interrogated. Shots are fired into empty houses. It makes no difference. The shooters are long gone by the time anger arrives. Reports stack up at headquarters. Casualty lists lengthen. The same words appear again and again. Unsichtbar, invisible, unoffenbar, untraceable. And still, the senior officers dismiss it. This is the last gasp, one says. The Russians are desperate. They hide because they cannot fight. But desperation cuts both ways. As October bleeds into November, the snow deepens, and the roads toward Moscow choke with stalled vehicles and frozen men. German columns slow to a crawl. Every delay gives the defenders more time. Every hesitation gives the snipers another window. The city is closer now. Its spires are rumored to be visible on clear days. So are the rifles. November 3rd, 1941. Outskirts of Moscow. The forest thins. The land opens into broken fields, rail embankments, and half-buried villages. In the distance, on rare, clear mornings, the dark outline of Moscow's skyline cuts the pale sky. The city is close enough now that the thunder of artillery never stops. It rolls day and night, a constant pressure on the ears and the mind. German units push forward in ragged lines. The men are thinner, dirtier, slower. Boots are wrapped in rags against frostbite. Engines cough and stall. Horses collapse in the traces and are shot where they fall. And still, the snipers are there. They move closer with the Germans, never giving up the pressure. Positions appear in church towers, factory ruins, haystacks frozen solid, attic windows smashed just enough to fire through. Every approach road seems covered by at least one unseen rifle. A lieutenant steps out of a half-track to consult a map. A shot cracks. The map flutters from his hands as he falls, blood soaking into the paper. The driver freezes, unsure whether to move or stay. Another shot punches through the windshield, shattering glass. The half-track lurches forward blindly and slams into a ditch. This time, the panic is open. Men refuse to move without covering fire. Officers shout themselves hoarse, trying to restore momentum. Machine guns are set up to fire at empty windows. Artillery shells collapse buildings already abandoned. Smoke fills the streets, but the shots keep coming, from new angles, from behind, from above. German snipers are brought up, experienced men with scopes of their own. They take positions and wait, scanning for muzzle flashes, movement, a hint of a silhouette. They rarely get a chance. The Soviet sharpshooters fire once, then vanish. A German sniper lines up on a suspected window and waits for the return shot that never comes. Hours pass. His fingers go numb. When he finally shifts position, a round takes him through the shoulder from somewhere he never considered. By mid-November, the tone of the reports changes. Snipers are no longer a footnote. They are a problem, a serious one. Requests for white camouflage, for counter-sniper training, for specialized units finally make it through the chain of command. But it is too late. Winter has arrived in full force. Temperatures plunge. Oil thickens. Weapons jam. Men shiver even while marching. On November 7th, Soviet artillery opens up along multiple sectors. Red Army units, bolstered by fresh divisions and hardened by weeks of defensive fighting, counterattack. The Germans are caught off balance, exhausted, under strength, and still bleeding men to unseen rifles. In one ruined suburb, a German battalion attempts to hold a line along a tramway. Sniper fire pins them down almost immediately. Every attempt to move brings another casualty. Officers drop one after another, forcing junior NCOs to take command. Communications break down. The line wavers. A Soviet infantry platoon advances under cover of the sniper's fire. The Germans barely see them until they are too close. Grenades explode. Shouts echo. The position collapses in minutes. Word spreads fast now. The snipers are not just killing, they are shaping the battlefield. They decide where men can stand, where officers dare to move, where attacks stall and defenses crumble. German officers who once dismissed the threat now write frantic notes, underlining phrases, demanding solutions. Some speak openly of being hunted, of fighting an enemy that does not show itself, that strikes without warning and fades away. Moscow does not fall. By early December, the German advance halts completely. Frostbite casualties rival combat losses. Engines are abandoned where they freeze. Orders come down to dig in, to hold what has been taken. The snipers do not stop. They harass the defensive lines, picking off sentries, officers, anyone careless enough to silhouette themselves against snow or sky. Sleep becomes impossible. Men flinch awake at imagined shots. Nerves fray. Discipline erodes. The Red Army counteroffensive pushes the Germans back from the city. Kilometer by kilometer, the invaders retreat into the same forests they once dismissed. This time, the forest belongs entirely to the men with rifles. December 1941. West of Moscow. The retreat is slow and punishing. Snowdrifts swallow roads. Wrecked vehicles line the routes like gravestones. Men march with heads down, rifles slung, eyes dulled by exhaustion and cold. Behind them, Moscow still stands, scarred, burning in places, but unbroken. And even now, the snipers follow. They no longer need to range far ahead. The Germans move predictably in retreat, clustering on the few usable roads, funneling through villages and clearings. Each bottleneck becomes a killing ground. A single well-placed shot halts a column as effectively as a mine. An officer steps out to direct traffic around a stalled truck. He never finishes the gesture. A bullet takes him through the throat. The men freeze, unsure who is next. Orders come late. Movement slows. The cold tightens its grip. German units begin to change their behavior in small, telling ways. Officers stop wearing rank insignia. Binoculars are passed quietly between men instead of worn openly. Movement happens only in short bursts, covered by suppressive fire, even when there is nothing visible to suppress. It is an admission, unspoken but complete. At divisional headquarters, after-action reports are written with a new tone. Snipers are no longer dismissed. They are analyzed. Their methods are described in detail. Patience measured in hours, firing positions prepared days in advance, constant relocation, coordination with infantry and artillery. Some officers admit, privately, that they never faced anything like this in the West. In France, Belgium, the Balkans, the enemy had fought in lines and formations. Here, the battlefield itself had learned how to shoot back. On the Soviet side, the men who waited in snow and shadow are rotated out, reassigned, or sent to train others. Their rifles are cleaned. Their scopes are repaired. Their stories spread through units and into newspapers. Names begin to circulate. Men credited with dozens, sometimes hundreds of confirmed kills. But in the forests and ruins, fame matters little. What matters is that the Germans have learned. By 1942, German units across the Eastern Front issue new instructions. Camouflage discipline is enforced. Movement protocols change. Dedicated counter-sniper teams are formed. Manuals are rewritten. All of it is reactive. All of it comes after Moscow. The lesson was there from the beginning, written in snow and blood and silence. Underestimate the man you cannot see, and he will decide when you fall. In the end, the snipers did not win the Battle of Moscow alone. Tanks, infantry, artillery, and sheer endurance carried the fight. But the sharpshooters did something just as important. They broke the illusion of invincibility. They slowed the advance. They turned confidence into caution and caution into fear. And in war, fear is a weapon. The forest goes quiet again. Snow settles over old firing positions. Spent cartridges remain buried, unseen, like bones beneath the ground. But the lesson endures.